Am I stiff? Am I being stiff? I'm probably being stiff. I'll get used to this eventually. Also, my camera setup is not ideal at all. Welcome to Sketchy Situations, a tabletop RPG channel. This is episode 11 of Stroke of Luck, where I use Ironsworn Starforged, a game written and designed by Sean Tompkin. I'm Sketchy, the GM, player, and generally everything for this channel. And it's nice to meet you. So to kick it right off, as always, if you want to skip straight to the game and not deal with any announcements, you can go to the description or the first comment of this video, and you'll find timestamps for just getting to the game. With that out of the way, I'm really sorry about the long absence. It's been a while, well over a month of near radio silence. I went through some life experiences, but I'm kind of wading back through that. And I want to start off by saying thank you. I got some awesome birthday videos. I got awesome tweets, quote retweets, just thanks. And just here it is. Check it out.
Happy birthday, Sketchy. Hope you enjoy your day and hope it's amazing, hope it's great, hope it's all those things. Yeah, happy birthday. Hey Sketchy, little bird tells me it's your birthday. I wanted to say have a wonderful day. I'm on holiday here in Glasgow. You can see Glasgow in Scotland behind me. You ever wonder what that looks like? And I just wanted to say, yeah, have a really lovely birthday. Have a really nice time. And I'm glad you're surrounded by people who think you're amazing, as I do.
I also got a really awesome invitation to a game where I got to be the player. It had been such a long time since I was in a group, and I'm usually nervous about playing any games with any people because my ideas, once they start, they just kind of shoot. But it was just nice to be a part of a group for a change. It'd been years. Am I stiff? Am I being stiff? I'm probably being stiff. I'll get used to this eventually. Also, my camera setup is not ideal at all. It's a really tight space. But let's address the video format as if this isn't playing for the last 2 minutes of me talking to a camera. Why am I doing a video format? Reason number 1. Why not? Reason number 2. Also, why not? But still, I have some future content that I wanted to include my likeness in, and I felt this would be an easy kind of jump into situation by just a little introduction so I can start getting used to figuring out when is my eyes actually looking like I'm looking at you. Like, we'll figure this out together as a team, guys. Which number are we on? I think it's number 3. Number 3 reason. It's not a reason to deal with the video format at all. It's more of I stopped using Canva and I switched to something called Clipchamp. I was doing something for work and I was fiddling around on Clipchamp and I realized I had a lot more editing options, which I have no idea how wrong I was when I said that. I have spent 3 days fighting with a program I felt absolutely certain was going to work. I'm exhausted. I hate my computer. I hate the internet. I have no idea what I'm talking about when I'm saying this stuff. But, let me go ahead and finish. Hindsight's 2020. Which was surprising. Windows is not known for making the most spectacular built-in programs, and this actually comes built in with Windows 11. No, I don't have a Windows 11. I have an old 2013, honestly, probably older than that computer. It's a Sony Vaio, and I've had it for obviously over 9 years. That's sad, but either way, Canva was lagging really bad for me, and Clipchamp just gave me that opportunity to branch out and add more effects that I wanted to use. I like to do something new every video. It keeps my mind sharp. It helps me learn more about how to just edit videos, and I really enjoy the hobby as it is. So here I am. I'm using Clipchamp for this one. So if it looks a little wonky, I'm still learning the program, but either way. As for the future content, I actually already have some cool ideas along the lines. In fact, after this episode, I'm going to be playing Starforged Bingo. I'm using the poo. That was my phone. Ignore my phone. That was poo. So subscribe and hit that bell for the next episode where I'll be using Starforged Bingo, where I use common moves and oracles to see if I can get bingo. And I'll just give you a glimpse of it really quick. It's just a funny way to ensure that you try to use something new. So if you want to get bingo, you're going to have to use different moves and oracles and just approaches to things. And there will be a link to being able to make your own bingo card. Look, I'm just shooting the shit here. Hit my dopamine buttons. It keeps me doing stuff. But without further ado, I guess we can kind of jump into the game. Oh, no. I did want to let you know something, and it's that I'm going to be including some aspects that I've been wanting to use in the game for a while. It is some of my own personal oracles, and it really helps that Stargazer has been updated so that you can actually add your own custom oracles. But in particular, I raved about earlier this year, 2022, about the Alleyman Tarot that came out. It is over 200 cards, all of them generally non-traditional. Maybe about 20 of them are fairly traditional in terms of how they look. And I wanted to use that for Erin Slater. I talk about him having an oracle box, and it has cards in it. And you'll hear more about how that works in a little bit, but that's going to be some of the things I added in. I just kind of wanted to be more true to how I wanted to play the game. I wanted to enjoy my game. Screw it. I wanted to enjoy my game. Anyway, let's just kind of move forward to the disclaimer.
Warning. User discretion is advised. The following content may contain uses of profanity, violent descriptions, and other strong language which may be offensive to some viewers. Sensitive topics may be present throughout. Such topics may include, but are not exclusive to, addictive behaviors, body dysmorphia, criminal activity, extortion, and mental illness. Views expressed by the characters are not a representation of the creator opinions and views and are a dramatization of fictional scenarios. Please remain mindful of yourself and your surroundings before proceeding.
The last time on Stroke of Luck, Erin Slater had battled the Mimic and basically just about lost. He got the crap kicked out of him even after kicking the crap out of the Mimic itself. And then we got to zoom in on the perspective of Juro, who was also on the Dawn's Herald at the time, and noticed that Erin was in danger when he kept trying to contact him and he would not answer his comms. And when he went to rescue him, he saw the Mimic actually in the process of stealing Erin Slater's face. So he got him back to Reprise, to the medic center, and when Erin finally woke up, he saw Brennan Carr, who wanted to have this very awkward discussion with him about what happened on the Dawn's Herald, what he encountered, how he got his wounds or lack thereof, and yeah, he just seemed very focused on what was on that ship. And after experiencing what he had and being aware that this thing was a Mimic, he now suddenly didn't really trust Brennan Carr very much at all. So he got lucky by Brennan Carr accidentally dropping his key card on the way out to get Erin some food so he can retell the tale. And he used that key card to escape back to his ship, where he found out from the dock worker he had encountered when he first got there that Juro had been sniffing around his ship because it still had that graffiti from that rebellious graffiti artist. And so that was just on top of his problems. He didn't trust anybody because anyone could be a mimic. He didn't trust Juro Kwon because he was still a hunter, and goodness knows what he looked up on him about while he was unconscious. So getting back onto his ship, he decided to fiddle with his oracle box and see if he could trigger a new vision that could give him some clarity onto his next steps. And that's where we are now. But the more that Erin stared at the cards, the more he realized he had too many questions, and he didn't know which one he needed the answer to, like, right now. In fact, I have a question right now in particular out of curiosity. Was it a person or a vision that actually brought him to Juro Kwon? I've said that someone directed him in this direction, but I mean, he could just be saying that because telling people, yeah, I just kind of had a vision about this guy, is a little hard for people to take in. The odds in which he received this information from a person instead of a vision, you would technically say is high because he has more interactions with people than he has visions. But also, Juro Kwon is outside his normal area of criminal activity, I want to say. And saying, hey, yeah, no, this guy, who does he know is going to direct him to find a hunter to get help from? That's the best way I can put it, if you're trying to think in realistic terms. So I'm just going to leave it at a very ugly 50-50, because I don't feel like one is more likely than the other. Both of them are very unlikely. So 50-50, general question, did he receive a vision to find Juro Kwon? From Stargazer, we have a yes. It doesn't give me a numerical value, but it gave me a yes, so that's good enough for me. Yes, he received a vision to find Juro Kwon. Am I curious of what those words were or what those cards were? Yes. But I feel like going backwards to that may make things more complicated than maybe necessary. I don't know. Frick it. Why not? Let's just try out this process. So we're going to do 2 cards, and then what was the third card that he received when he got this vision? Just to understand, that would mean this is the vision that he received just before he had one out in the jungle. So I guess it kind of goes to show that there is some frequency with these visions. Now, since I have the cards in front of me, I'm actually pulling from them there, but of course I am linking to the actual custom oracle that I made, so that if anyone wants to do it and use it as the actual list grows, I will continue to link in. Have fun with that. But as for what I pulled, I have the Dark Sun. It's a very ominous looking card, and the 10 of Discs. I know I can't say that properly. I can't say anything with an SK at the end, like, at all. But 10 of Discs. And the last card that would have been a new card had he pulled it or just found it later. And we will decide if this is something he pulled. Anyway, Deals in the Dark is the last card. So I love this combination already off the bat. Because it fits well, especially when I read the descriptions. So the Dark Sun is about kind of wallowing in your misery, just kind of just being in it. Whether you're doing it because you choose to give up on any hope, or this is just generally the state that you are in. And since he didn't know the answer to his problem, he was likely wallowing when he was first envisioning this. And then the 10 of Discs say that it's kind of about inheriting a wealth of support, whether it is financial or support from a community. So that's what that one means. And the last one, Deals in the Dark, is kind of in the name. It's about getting things you can only find if you veer off of the beaten path. So instead of looking for help where the good people or the proper things are, he needs to be looking where for him, it's normal for him to look in the dark, but he probably hadn't looked there. You know, he probably looked for some other means and it said, go to the dark. And since we've gotten to Reprise, overall, it was already a black market town. And the first thing that happened is he found a data disk that had information about their underhanded deals. And then he met Brennan Carr, which was like, hey, here's a deal. So overall, everything that he's acquired and found has actually been in line with these cards. So this is my first time actually utilizing this. This is awesome. This is fun. But I'm going to tack up right here for myself to know Deals in the Dark is a new card. And it is the card he acquired just before his vision at the jungle. So that answered my question. And for his questions that he's still sitting there wanting to answer, what he does is he kind of pushes the cards to the side and he goes and finds himself a dry erase marker, which is not easy to find these days. Handwritten things have a tendency to go up on you when you enter different atmospheres, environments, but he likes to keep it because it reminds him of his time with his mentor back on the planet he had to run away from. She used to find any surface and scribble on it to get her thoughts out, always saying that you remember things better when you touch it. He didn't used to understand her, and he used to pick at her about it, and she paid him no mind. Now here he is out here in the middle of bloody nowhere, and he would rather scribble it down than to actually find his data pad and start writing in that. So he takes out a marker and he looks at all the problems that he's sitting at. In no particular order, one problem is this stupid vow. It is way more complicated than he thought it was going to be. The individual involved, the danger of the ship, the mimic on it, it's a lot of danger involved. And not to mention, Juro is interested in it for whatever reason that brought him here, which is the second problem that he can think of. What has Juro distracted with this planet? Why is he here? What was his mission when he first arrived? He actually doesn't know what that is. He's been investigating the fauna and why it's been acting up, but what does that have to do with his mission? And that's important because he needs to get Juro to pay attention to him to help solve his cursed issue. So, marking that off, what is his mission and how do I get him focused back on me? Third issue overall is crap. I have a mimic that stole my face. I mean, he doesn't even understand truly that it was a mimic. He's just adding a name to it because that's pretty much what it did. It mimicked him. It copied him. Why? And then while he was thinking about that, it came up to remember. What about that cryopod? What happened to it? What was in it? Did Juro remember to call back for it? Did it have anything to do with the mimic? It's so many questions. With so many questions sitting there and drawn all over this metal table now, he knows that the next vision is likely going to fall in line with whatever he's supposed to do. He's starting to begrudgingly trust it. But what necessarily will it answer or handle? Well, he won't know. And that's freaking annoying. Nonetheless, he focuses on the last vision and tries to encourage the deck to bring forth that new card. And as if it understands him, or maybe it's the luck of the draw, he sees a card he knows he doesn't recognize. It's a small enough deck, so he's kind of familiar with what's there, and this new one is obviously new. At the top of it, it reads the 5 of Mirrors, and it is a very feminine looking card. If you know what chibis are, it is a chibi girl putting on lipstick and sitting in front of a vanity of heart-shaped mirrors that are shattered. And he doesn't really get to just know what these things mean. I'm reading the paraphrase context of these cards, but he's looking at it and he's just, it kind of clicks. Mirrors show a reflection, but a shattered mirror shows that there's something wrong. It's a broken reflection. It is not really showing the true you. And after encountering a mimic that stole his face, and you know that there's going to be something different about it that's not quite you, yeah, he can see why this card would have been pulled. But for your context, the 5 of Mirrors speaks of hidden meanings and intentions, hidden feelings, and just keeping up with appearances. And this only lasts but so long before these lies and facades shatter to pieces and the truth is revealed. And that was, well, what exactly happened. He watched a video of the last footage of the Dawn's Herald in that lower lab area where this thing was going to take on the appearance of someone else there. It took on the appearance of the one scientist, and then when everything fell to shit, it took on the appearance of another scientist, and so on and so forth, most likely. It's always haunting to him when this happens, that he sees that all these things are connected, and he wants to know why it's him that has to be connected to it. But the cards don't care to answer that, so we're moving on. Now he is warmed up with this reacquainted feeling of feeling like his fate or all things around him are kind of decided. And he wants the answer. What do I do next? Where do we go next? Focusing on that thought process, that sensation, that desire to have new answers, to bring forth new information, he pulls 3 new cards, although they actually aren't new to him at all. These are all 3 cards that have already been incorporated, and thus far, when he's used this technique, which has probably only been once or twice in the past, the 3rd card is always a new card. Now, one of the cards is new to you, listener, but to him, he pulls the Dark Sun, which was part of when he was envisioning or given a vision about Juro. And the second one is called the Hawk Moth, which I'll describe in a second. And the 3rd one is the one he just received, the 5 of Mirrors. To describe to you what the Hawk Moth is, it is a card that depicts a moth, obviously is the main focus, but it's somewhere in between it is that metamorphosis. So it's the uncertainty in the middle. Coming back to the context of what that means for this particular situation, he did not get a vision. He learned nothing new. The funniest part about that is it feels like he's being told to just kind of trust the process and go along with it. You are still in the middle of things. You haven't actually gotten anywhere yet. You just kind of got to go with the flow. You're still somewhere in between what you went through and what you're going to learn about, which is absolutely not what he expected to happen at all. So here we are with questions, no answer, a deck that's kind of useless to him right now, a scribbled over metal table. Where do we go to next? To what brought you to Reprise to begin with? Juro. Though I will admit, before he does that, he does some basic just life maintenance. He gets himself cleaned up, something to eat, a change of clothes, which in the terms of any show, it's pretty much the same thing that he had on a second ago. And while he's in that process, he's thinking about how he's going to have this conversation. And it occurs to him, where is his badge? Somewhere between panic and acceptance of certain doom, he frantically searches through his clothing to see if he can find his fake hunter's badge. This will be our first roll, sad to say, this deep into it, of this episode is check your gear. Well, after a month-long hiatus, the first thing that Stargazer decides to do to make me feel very warm and fuzzy and welcome is give me a miss with a match. That is a 6 versus a 10 and a 10. Mind you, I had gotten my supply all the way up to 5, so I had to have scored a 1 on the die just to get a 6 versus 2 10s. I really wish that I had used my bingo card in this episode. Now, most of the moves don't actually go over what happens when you get a match. You just kind of assume that it's the worst possible scenario for this situation. But a miss in general reads that you don't have it and the situation grows more perilous. Pay the price. Now, he's looking for his fake hunter's badge, and the person that rescued him was a hunter, clearly one that's serious about his job. It's also Brennan Carr, who seems very hung up on him. that could have gone through his things. So, yeah, let's just pay the price and see maybe if I like how that goes. I don't know. I'm not even going to go with he gets a vision. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Let's pay the flipping price. So, to pay the price, I actually went to story complication instead, because at the bottom of the page of 380, it pretty much says that you can use it as an alternative to pay the price, especially when you roll a match with tens, which is exactly what I did. The first thing I rolled, I wasn't feeling it, so I actually re-rolled it. The first thing I rolled was you are undermined by self-doubt or your vulnerabilities. And I was just like, what? I mean, we've got a ton of those in this situation. So I actually re-rolled it. The second thing that I rolled was a debt or promise comes due. And then it clicked. So I decided to go with both of them because I'm a sadist and Erin is my victim. I'm very sorry if that's triggering for anyone. I mean that in a humorous sense right now. But right now, I'm going to peg this on Brennan Carr, and we're going to just jump into how that happens. No sooner does Erin come to the realization that he is without his hunter's badge, does a light come on just above at one of the panels that indicates that the airlock is open. And he looks back in the direction and he can hear footsteps echoing. He's losing his shit. He has no idea. So he starts to gather up his things. He's half dressed, and when maneuvering through his ship, which isn't really that complex of a layout, he inevitably runs straight into Brennan Carr, who doesn't look friendly, doesn't look nerdy, doesn't look like any kind of pushover that he had imagined him to be. He looks slick back, eyes narrowed, a half-cocked smirk. He's still wearing his medic uniform with the long white lab coat, but Erin has no doubts that he has something behind that, something concealed. But Erin is still on his ship, and he looks around to make sure he has something to use as leverage in this situation. I'm going to secure an advantage just in case Brennan Carr decides to pop off right now, which is a strong hit. That is an 8 versus a 5 and a 6. I had 10 momentum this whole time, which makes that miss with a match even funnier, because again, I could have burnt it and it wouldn't have made a difference, because a 10 still can't beat 2 10s. You can't go any higher than a 10. Oh, this is great. So Erin has plotted out his escape route, or at least his way to turn the tables if Brennan Carr tries something at this moment. And he's kind of pacing back and forth with this cliche villain walk in the pathway that would lead Erin out. Finally, he stops, hands out to his side, fingers wiggling a little bit, and speaks in a low tone. "You really gave me the slip there, buddy. I was worried about you. You shouldn't be up moving around after such a spill." Erin's eyes are drawn to the twiddling fingers, but he manages to look away and says, "What the hell are you talking about? Who the hell let you on my ship?" Brennan tilts his head. "Is this your ship?" Erin squints his eyes. What kind of question is that? He takes a hard step forward, testing Brennan's resolve. The medic doesn't budge. In fact, he seems to harden in his position. His eyes flit between Brennan's hard stare and the twiddling fingers. He doesn't know what to expect next, but he's prepared to fight his way through this. Brennan clicks his tongue 3 times and shakes his head. "Look, I'm going to tell you how this is going to work. I'm going to tell you what I want, and you're going to do it. Or else, your not-so-friendly hunter finds out what you really are." Erin raises his chin. "And what would that be?" Brennan laughs, but there's no heart in it. "Are we really going to go through this stupid movie drama?" Erin shrugs. "I'm a movie buff, so I wouldn't mind the drama. Try me." Brennan continues as if he didn't hear Erin. "We've got your badge. We've got all your stuff. After you stole my key card, you left everything else like an idiot. Complete freaking amateur. I mean, really, you came to Reprise and actually tried to steal from us?" Erin tries to press. "And who are you?" Carr shrugs. It really doesn't matter who I am in this situation. What matters is what Quan thinks you are. And right now, he thinks you're just a citizen in need. Because I doubt you showed him this phony badge. It doesn't even have your freaking face on it. Brennan flicks his left hand, and a badge seemingly appears between his index and middle finger, which he flicks to the ground and drops before Erin. There, the face ID is more than visible. Sharper features look up at Erin. A squared jaw, pronounced cheekbones, hard-set eyes, but still swirling like the galaxy that was around them. The hair is the exact same color, but shorn down much lower, still with a frohawk, with the sides cut down. The neck is much thicker, blending into broad, squared shoulders. Brennan scoffs. I have no idea why you would want to be this amateur anyway. It's got a rap sheet that spreads from here to the next sector. But it doesn't matter. We've got you on vid all over this station, flashing this thing, and claiming to be a hunter. And we already know what happens when you get caught faking one of those. So, as I said, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna have a chat. You're gonna nod your head, and you're gonna say yes. Considering how long he was passed out, he has no idea how long Carr has been sitting on this information. He does know one thing, and that's that Juro Quan still doesn't know who he is. They could have turned that in at any point if they really wanted to manipulate him. Honestly, if they wanted to get him off the station, Quan was obligated to turn Erin in as soon as possible. Lost in his thoughts, Brennan gets his attention again. Alright, now what about some hospitality? Some old, not very fond memories drudge up at that voice, at that tone, at the mannerisms. Erin clenches his fists, and then he heads back to the eatery. Along the way, he's able to quickly bring up outside cameras where he can see Brennan's backup. This was not going to be an easy escape. His jaw is tight. Too tight to do more than grunt as he gestures for Carr to take a seat in one of the uncomfortable metallic chairs. Cocky now, Brennan shakes his head. Where I come from, I was taught to sit down after a lady. Erin sneers hard enough that even Brennan Carr's cockiness subdued. Never been a lady, and not starting now. Sit, or I make you sit. While the would-be medic is taking a seat, he puts on his shirt, having just stood around in just a chest compressor and half-buttoned pants the entire time. Then he moves and takes a seat at the opposite side where he can now see the entryway in case anyone else wants to enter. The cards are still splayed out on the table. Brennan eyes them curiously. Didn't take you for a fortune teller type. Erin gathers them up quickly, holding out his hand, and his connects pulling the cards back over to him and neatly back into the box. I didn't peg you for a weasel, but here we are. The smallest of smiles creeps on Brennan's face. I really think after this we'll be good friends. I really think so. For the sake of that comment, I'm going to actually test your relationship, because as per the text of test your relationship, when your relationship with a connection is tested through conflict, betrayal, or circumstance, roll plus heart. I would call this a general betrayal, some pretty mean circumstance, pretty ugly conflict. Anyway, by rolling it, I have a miss, unsurprisingly. He only has a +2 in heart, and so we have a 6 versus a 9 and a 10. Of course, I could burn and get a weak hit, but we don't really want to work weak hit. And on a miss, if you have no interest in maintaining this relationship, choose one. You can lose the connection, or you can prove your loyalty. I'm going to just give it to him. He has no reason to prove any loyalty at all to this guy that is currently trying to blackmail him. So we're going to envision how this impacts you and pay the price. So I rolled pay the price, and this is kind of an obvious consequence to what's happening here, but we have a new enemy is revealed. And really, he's sitting right in front of us. It's Brennan Carr. He's going to be our antagonist overall here on Reprise on the planet Scourge. And Erin's going to make it clear that he sees him as that. Also, I want to back up really quick and make a correction. That should have been a 7 versus a 9 and a 10, because secure our advantage, we would have had an extra +1. And we're going to envision that with how this goes overall. Like supernovas exploding behind his eyes. Erin's eyes light up. The area around them shudder, and he takes a deep breath. Keep eye contact with Carr. The table and chairs shake and rattle, and things on the shelves begin to clatter towards the floor. In an even lower tone, Erin says, "I really don't think so." He finally lets out a slow, heavy breath, and the eatery becomes still again. Brennan had paused, raised his eyebrows, and looked around as things fell to the ground. But then he calmed and looked Erin Slater in the eyes. It wasn't the reaction that Erin was expecting, but it was the one that he got. And after everything came to a standstill, Brennan pulled out his communicator and spoke 2 words into it. "Do it." At that moment, Erin learned a new aspect of Brennan Carr. He was very influential. And suddenly his entire ship jolted as something clamped down on it. Alerts went off inside the ship, and Erin stood up, trying to figure out what went wrong. Brennan stood up calmly and said to Erin as he seemed frantic, "I didn't come here to beg you, but you will be coming to find me." As much as Erin wanted to follow him and figure out what had happened, he instead ran to the cockpit to check the readings, and it appeared on the sensors that there was compression on the various ends of the ship. Clamps, if you would. He had a parking brake. A big, giant space parking brake. He couldn't take off if he wanted to. None of this really made any flippin' sense to him. Why necessarily did he have to be the one to do this stupid mission? And why was he being blackmailed so hard? Of course, he did throw several eggs in Brennan's face so far, so it wasn't entirely unwarranted, but that was beside it. He only had one recourse of action that he could turn to at this point, and he had to get to him before Brennan did. So I have a couple of questions that need answering before I can get much further. One, did he leave his backup outside of the ship where Erin would run into them? I'm rolling likely, and I'm just remembering that I should probably use my own personal dice in this instance for asking the Oracle these yes or no, likely and unlikely ones, because in the instance of a match, there is a twist. So I'm going to roll my own personal dice. So with a 43, we have a yes. When you're rolling likely like that, you got to get 75 and under, so it doesn't give you a whole lot of room to mess that up. So they're out there. He can see that he's looking at his outside camera, and what is he going to do? He's going to secure some kind of advantage to get them to move. How? I don't bloody know. So we're definitely using shadow in this context, and I can see what he's going to do. He's going to just leave out and see what they do. And then from there, he's going to make his next decision. So secure an advantage plus shadow. And that's a strong hit with an 8 versus a 5 and a 3. Now, there's a lot of different ways that they can choose to really be annoying to him. So I'm just going to roll and see, just off the bat, do they follow him? I have an 11, and that's rolling with a likely because it makes sense for them to follow him. And now that I have an 11, this is the exact reason why I have to roll with my own personal dice, because the extreme results. This is nothing new with me, extreme to the frickin' max. So, they're not only following, but as he's walking, he can see heads turn. Brennan has influence, and it spreads far, or just the word has gotten around. He really doesn't know where to land this situation in general, but it doesn't matter. He has a strong hit, so that means that he's moving about deceptively. He's moving about in a way that they don't actually know what his true intentions are. And right now, his genuine intention is to figure out where Juro is. So I have an advantage here to get away. I'm going to take this +1 and use this to sneak off. Face danger plus shadow with that +1, and I'm starting off strong. After a month, I have a strong hit with a match. That is a 7 versus a 4. Okay, Erin, trying to make up for lost time right here. Alright, we're going to get it done. So they're following him this way and that. He's taking left, right turns. He's going to a completely new area. And since he showed up with a single mind to find Juro, it was previously just this complete straight shot. So now where he's going, they have no idea what he's intending with this rather fast-paced and intensive walk. And then, like it was plucked out of a movie scene, shift change rings over the intercom and the halls fill up, congested with bodies as everyone's moving to lunch and their next shift and so on. And so suddenly there's this breathing room between him and his pursuers, and this is perfect. This is exactly what he needs. And so he starts to duck low amongst the crowd, staying closer to the taller people, making it hard for the cameras to pick out where he's actually ducked to. And then he remembers, and patting just his side, he feels the key card that Brennan still seemed to have forgotten to take back from him. He almost laughs, but uses it to move off to the side where he hears some beeping from other individuals, using it to slip into a completely different room, just low enough that no one can see who went in there from the angle of the cameras, but still wide enough so he can easily get in without getting stuck. So right now, Erin has an ace up his sleeve. He has Brennan Carr's key card. So I will remember that for any future. But right now, where are we? Let's figure this out. If you haven't started using it already, outside of your own individual oracles you may have gathered up, you can also use the derelict oracles, because these were places before they became derelicts, and there is a planet side option and a settlement option, and that's what I just used. And in this case right now, it is a medical morgue. Yes, Erin Slater just slipped over into the flipping morgue. I'm going to say that it wasn't just right through the door. There was definitely a pathway. He walked in behind some people, maybe a few moments or so after them. They didn't even get to truly notice him being there. But remaining mindful of the situation, he's not likely near an alternate route to the docks. Who knows? But what he's going to do is secure an advantage. So he followed behind these people, and he doesn't really know where he is, and they kind of break off towards what the main working area is. So rolling secure an advantage with plus wits, I have a weak hit, and that's completely fine. I don't need to burn momentum because I can just take the +1 out of the 2 options I have. And this secure an advantage is him kind of idling nearby, still hasn't really round the corner where they can clearly see him, and he kind of hears about what's going on and what they're about to do. So basically, the people who were there previously are about to come back out, and he's going to use this to now time when he's going to either sneak past or just make his next move. And his next move will be putting on the jacket of uniform. I'm going to say it's a janitor uniform. I'm representing this as, since he still has all this momentum, there's a lot of things nearby that he can use, but once he's burnt it, he's back to the drawing board. Anyway, he's going to put on the janitor's kind of jacket thing, and he's going to come out and convince them that he's lost. I'm also going to say that he takes a stray string or whatever and ties his hair back into more of a kind of poof ponytail thingy. Since I'm compelling with shadow by lying, that means I also get to add scoundrel to it. So I'm using the +1 from my secure an advantage. I have a +4 to shadow in general and a +2 to scoundrel. I absolutely dare this to be anything less than a strong hit. So it looks like Stargazer checked its audacity at the door, and we have a strong hit. That's a 10 versus a 2 and a 4. So that means they believe that he is a newbie custodian, and they have this kind of mild trust for him. He uses this opening to get a little bit more information on the situation as to where to go next and just what to look out for. And I'm rolling gather information that gave me an awesome weak hit. Part of the course, 5 versus a 3 and a 7. This is not that big of a deal, so no, I'm still not burning my 10. I'm going to wait for him to be up Schitt's Creek. So what information does he get that complicates his quest? I have for descriptor constructed, and I have for focus outbreak. Let's make this a little bit more difficult for no absolute reason at all. And I wonder, is this a biological outbreak or actually a mechanical programming kind of outbreak? Basically a virus, a computer virus outbreak, considering that one of the settlement troubles is still sabotage technology. So I wrote the technical virus being likely, and I got a 59. So they're not surprised by the mix-up at all. The systems have been a bit weird with the constant blackouts and the data drops, corruption. They tell him it's going to be rather hit or miss whether he'll have access to the service hallway that they utilize most of the time. Because of the constant drops, sometimes it doesn't read the key cards and they have to go out into the public sectors where their work is a bit more visible. But if it works, then he'll have a more discreet way to get back to the docks. So Erin is making his way through this back area by this morgue, and what may be in them, he's not interested. Why there's so many, he's not interested. But he has to stay discreet because there may still be cameras back here, and he does have a rather distinct appearance. I'm going to roll face danger plus shadow because he is trying to keep a low profile. And we're going to get to this door. We're going to get to this door and we're going to use this key card. And this is just going to overall show what happens after he gets to that point and uses that card. Ah, there's the stargazer that I missed. The audacity, the cruelty. I have a beautiful miss with a match. This was the moment I was waiting for, where I burn my spectacular 10 because I'm sick of the BS. Of course, I ended up doing that after I had closed the dice roller, so I did not get a screenshot, but now a 5 and an 8 and an 8 has turned into a 10 versus an 8 and an 8. That means I have a strong hit with a match. I did not use Scoundrel this time around, but that's fine with me, because what I determined is that on the other side of that door was Brennan Carr, and of course his posse of punks. Before the door properly swings open, he hears the readying of weapons and his hands are already up in surrender. He lowers himself slowly and folds his hands on the back of his head. Erin chuckles and says, "Alright, I'll admit, I had some hopes there." Brennan gets lower and presses the barrel to the back of Erin's head. "Don't worry, I'm a doctor. We can work those kinks out." And then behind him is the sound of another cocking weapon. Who the hell is that? Brennan angrily stands up and turns around. Oh. Then he continues speaking. "I don't think you want this one." Erin takes the moment to peek upward and see that Juro is staring down Brennan Carr, them both holding a look at each other. One that could end in a devastating shot like a showdown in a western. Juro squints his eyes and Brennan swallows a lump in his throat. Then he gestures and the posse around him separates. He looks back at Erin and they catch eyes. Erin is smirking. Of course he's going from one hellhole to the other, but it's funny to see this asshole get what's coming to him. "Get up," Brennan growls at him. Erin bites his lip to stifle a laugh, but gets to his full height and brushes off his shoulders, then takes off the custodian's jacket and holds it out to Brennan. "I think this is yours." And he moves over to Juro's side, but Juro stops him, putting a hand on his shoulder. "And the card," he says to Erin. Erin looks at him wide-eyed, like why would you give up such an advantage? They hold this look and he feels defeated just like Brennan did, and flicks it back at the medic without turning around. With his back still turned to Brennan, he says in a hushed voice, looking up at Juro, "So what's next?" Juro glances at him from the corner of his eye as he starts to back up. We move. You know, the best thing about Starforged is the fact that you literally have no idea how it's going to end. Except for the fact that you kind of decide the final outcomes. But yeah, for the most part, you don't know how it's going to end. Anyway, I love how it ended. I always do. I don't decide the final thing unless I actually liked it. And we're going to see how far this is going to go. Now, if you actually watch the entire thing, announcements included, you will know that I had to switch programs just to accomplish this after 3 days. Anyway, here's a cool thingy that I have that I forgot to mention the first time around for my birthday stuff. It's this little thingy here. It was a gift from my husband for my birthday that I didn't know I really wanted. And it helped because I have to turn off the fan when I record. And it gets hot in this room. So, stay frosty, stay in trouble, subscribe, hit the like. Yeah.